everyone, it's Lacey again, and today I have my sweet friend Sabrina, who is also a doctorate of occupational therapy student, and we will talk more about her capstone in just a minute and how it relates to today's video. It's about arthritis and adaptive equipment. We will discover what is adaptive equipment, the different types of adaptive equipment, and the connection to OT. So let's get into it. All right, Sabrina, so we mentioned that your capstone somehow relates to my capstone about OT and arthritis. Could you tell us a little bit more about yours?
Yeah, so my capstone specifically focuses on occupational therapy's role with assistive technology in the home and work setting. And so basically what I do is I look at different pieces of technology, whether that's low, mid, or high tech, and how it interacts with different conditions, where it can be used in the home and the work setting, that sort of thing. So
awesome. Well, we are so excited to have your insight today and just look at a bunch of different products.
Yeah, absolutely.
Throughout this video, I wanted to remind you, if you have not seen our previous videos in this series, please check them out. Even if you've already seen them, have a refresher. It's always good to know. And also, I wanted to give a disclaimer that any of the items or products that we show were not sponsored by, and it doesn't mean that every single person who sees this video needs every piece that we talk about. We just wanted to show a cohesive and a lot of different common pieces of adaptive equipment that is found to be beneficial with arthritis. So you may not need these, but you may know someone who might benefit from them, and we'd love if you would share that.
Hey Lacey, what's adaptive equipment?
Adaptive equipment is considered part of assistive technology, which is a broader term that covers high-level, mid-level, and low-level solutions that work to maintain or improve function and occupational participation. This is one of the most common interventions that is used, especially for people with rheumatoid arthritis outside of medicine and surgery. And Sabrina, can you tell us a little bit more about OT's role in this field?
Yes, absolutely. So it is important for the occupational therapist to come in with solutions for a client that is either, like you said, high or low or mid-tech solutions. And so that could mean any simple item that kind of makes life easier, such as an adaptive knife or a bigger utensil for them to make things or make holding things easier. And so it's super important that the occupational therapist educates the client on how to use these things, and if they were interested in those items, where to obtain them.
So adaptive equipment has actually been found to have a positive impact on arthritis. It works to maintain or improve function even if there is a limited range of motion in the joints. And studies have found that the three most common pieces of adaptive equipment that were used and had positive outlooks on them were the shower chair, electric can opener, and the grab bars.
It's important to note that any assistive technology or adaptive equipment is not supposed to cause you any pain or discomfort. So if they do, please stop using those items and reach out to your occupational therapist for further information.
All right, so as you can tell, we've got a couple gadgets and gizmos here. So these are some common adaptive equipment or just pieces of equipment that can be used in the kitchen. So we have our lovely pepperoni today as one of our skills or items that we'll be cutting. So when you think about it just being on here, Sabrina, would you say that this is pretty sturdy, that it's safe?
Not at all. I mean, it's pretty clean, and so really I can just feel it kind of sliding.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what would be something that we could use that we have here today that would help maybe not do that as much?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have pieces of Dyson here, and it's kind of got this almost sticky but more jelly feel to it. And what you can do is you can use it as a placemat. And so whenever we put our Dyson down and then we have our plate on top of it, it won't slide. Hardly.
Yep. And a lower tech solution to this would be just going and getting like the shelf liner. It has a similar vibe to it, but it's a little bit easier to find than Dyson. This is also Dyson as well, but it's just a little different, a little thicker, same kind of thing. Just throw her down, put your plate on top. It's not going to go very far. So now that we have our pepperoni safely placed, let's talk about some different knives. What is that one you've got there?
So this is a 90-degree knife, and so what it actually does is that instead of using it like holding it as people normally would, we flip it over and then we kind of have this almost T-shaped angle. And so what it does is it allows you to use your bigger muscle
Door
group
protection
in order to cut a pepperoni.
All right,
so,
let's see.
Voila!
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So a different alternative would be most of the time it's called a rocker knife or like a rocking tea knife because of the handle here it makes. So you're just going to take it, and this actually uses a rocking motion, which is a little bit smoother than having to go full range. And then you just kind of wedge her apart. And there you go. So those are a couple different options. There's many more, but these are just some common ones that we're going to use. So if we remember from last week, we talked about enlarging grips for utensils and silverware. So like last week, we have our knife, and it's a nice big grip. And Sabrina, what have we got there?
So this is actually a built-up foam handle, and right now you can kind of see that it's kind of loose. It's totally okay. It still does its job. It just allows you to use a bigger grip over for one of these spoons. So if I were to scoop up this pepperoni, it would just make things a whole lot easier.
There we go. So again, this being the pool noodle is a little bit of a lower tech solution. Other things that you could do is, like we mentioned before, the shelf liner. Wrap it up, tape it as big as you need it. Other things are using like a vet wrap or a Coban to build it up. There's a lot of different materials that you can use to increase the grip space, and it keeps that web space open. So let's open some jars next. So as you can see, we still have a lot of adaptive equipment out, and that is because jar openers and even an electric can opener is one of the most commonly requested or used adaptive equipment for people with arthritis. So today we're going to talk about just a couple different versions. So this is part of a set that you can get at Amazon or things of that nature. So it's a little bit more prefab versus Sabrina's.
So this is a 3D printed universal opener, and so basically you have the different size bottles that it can open here, and then this is used to open just different cans, so like sodas, and then this is your glass bottle opener.
Well, let's see your tool, and then we'll compare it to what I've got over here.
Yeah, absolutely. And so right here we have this can of Fresca, and so I'm just going to slip that under the tab there, and then open it just like that. And then for this bottle, which you can flip it any way you need to, so which it might be a little bit looser, and sometimes it's easier to just hold it and twist the bottom, so you have that. And then now for this one, I might just have to stretch it. And then if I can just hold it, and then also that was too. So there we go.
So a lot of her features are found in this set here. This is actually used for creating a little bit more resistance or grip on larger bottles that may not fit in a traditional jar opener. So what you're going to do is lay it on top, and this can even be used with like a pot holder or things of that nature just to give a little bit more grip to your hand. And again, you're just going to pop her open, and voila. And it can also be used, if needed, to be put on underneath, and it's not going to move as much. All right, so next we've got a small little cap here. So this actually has 4 different sizes that you can use on different jars. And again, similar to Sabrina's, it's just going to hold and rotate, if I can open it correctly, and off it comes. So then we've got one of these dreaded jars. So we're going to put it on nice and stable. We're actually going to use this to hold it. Once you've got it nice and secure, off. See how easy it was? All right, we can close up that garlic real quick. So this one, it has a bottle opener here and then here as well. You can fit lids on the inside and use it. It also has a slot where you could open cans from that direction. This is a really good multi-purpose tool, very similar to what Sabrina had made. So now we have a version of an electronic can opener. So it will actually use a magnet, and it'll clip in here. So you're just going to hold it down, and it actually will hold the can itself. Pop it off, and you're ready to go. So we have this version of an electric can opener, but one that is also highly recommended is a electric can opener that actually sits on top of the can, and it rotates itself, so you don't have to hold the can, make sure that the magnetic component works, anything like that. You set it on the counter, you set it on top, press the button, and it's good to go. All right, so now we're going to talk about some leisure or community mobility things. So some of this may look familiar. From last week, we talked about using a book holder to decrease that pinching that we need, as well as not overworking that wrist. And we have our card holders without the cards today, no go fish. But again, these work on reducing that prolonged gripping in between the fingers and the thumb, like we talked about last week. And today we are also talking about some key holders.
Yes, so right here I have a 3D printed adaptive key holder. And so to reduce that pinching that Lacey was talking about, so instead of holding the key like this, you would hold the key like this. And so this one is particularly great was because it has that loop right there where you can attach the rest of your keys.
A different model is similar to this. It fits about 2 to 3 keys. You would take them and screw them in just like Sabrina's is, and you can fold them away as needed. It has a really big handle, so you can either insert your fingers or go on top of it like this, and it creates just a couple different ways that you can hold it, as well as similar to Sabrina's, you're spreading out the force that is required to turn, so it's not in such a small joint space. Some of the other things that we had mentioned before were Alexa or Google features.
Yeah, so basically people like to use these type of speakers. They can go into any room in the home, and so you can ask Google some specific things. It depends on the model types that you use. Some of them actually have a screen on it, into where you can watch YouTube videos, you can ask Google about the weather, and if some family members in another household have the same devices, you can actually contact them that way. So that's also another option.
One of the other great things, like Sabrina had mentioned, about turning off lights or turning on, opening and closing things, it decreases those repetitive movements on those small joints that your hands would need. Also, speaking of Google or different types of technology, there is a lot more availability of speech to text. So, with that being said, let's try it out. We're going to make sure and use our pop socket for our hands, as well as a joint protection technique that I'm sure we all learned last week. All right, let's open this up. And so then on your text to talk features, a lot of the time it will have a speaker. So we're going to press it. OT and arthritis. So now we want to talk about dressing. Here is a couple of common pieces of adaptive equipment that we can use. So we have a long-handled reacher. This is really good for reaching outside of the base of support that we have and getting items that maybe we couldn't because we have a restricted range of motion, or we just want to make sure that we're staying within that base of support. So we'd reach across and bring it to us. All right, and then if we want to put it back, same kind of thing. And then that way we're not having to get too far out of our base of support, but we're able to access things outside of it. So next we are going to talk about shoe horns. So I'm going to take this one, and Sabrina, if you'll grab the other one for us. Can you tell us kind of what the difference between these two are?
Yeah, so this end does the exact same thing as this, and so what she's holding is called a long-handled shoe horn. And so instead of having to bend down and fit your shoe onto your foot, you can just stay seated and put on the shoe that way. And then also what's really great about Lacey mentioning the base of support is that you can also use the reacher to grab your shoe and position it the way that you need to. And so on this other hand, we have something called a dressing stick. And so a dressing stick really kind of helps people with limited range of motion to put on a shirt or bring up some pants, and so that's why you have these two little hooks that kind of go in opposite directions. Your occupational therapist can actually educate you a little bit more on how to use it in your specific circumstance.
One of my other favorite features about this is you can yank off socks so much more easily.
Oh, that's true. Absolutely. So right here, I'm also holding a button hook. You'll also notice that it's not just a skinny handle. There's actually another adaptive handle that's placed on top of it to increase your grip surface. And so basically what you would do is that you would thread this part through the hole to hook it around the button, and then you would pull it back through the hole.
It's important to consider arthritis-friendly clothes. So if buttons were a harder subject and you didn't want to use the button hook, it would be important to avoid the buttons on shirts if possible, if not finding a way to have larger buttons so it's easier to use your hands or with the button hook. Other things are considering stretchy pants. So they're easier to get on and off, and again, you're not really having to deal with the button situation. You could consider a zip-up bra if the hooks are too hard to get. Other things would be having slip-on shoes. So these actually, you don't really have to lace, and you can just slip off and on as you need to, and it just requires a little bit of help, which again we could use that shoehorn for if we couldn't get down to it. So it's important to just kind of considering the types of clothing and the features of the clothing when you're wearing them So that way we're minimizing the amount of repetitive movements or difficult movements that you're doing while dressing to decrease the fatigue of your arthritis. So now we're going to talk about bathroom adaptive equipment. We have our lovely handlebars or grab bars, as we like to call them. These are in a different position than you normally have, but you have a couple different options. These will help you get up and down as well. If maybe it was harder on your hip or your knee, you can use these to get up and down, as well as it increases your safety while in the bathroom. And we have a bedside commode here, which may not always be necessary, but the perk of having it over the toilet is that it has bilateral arms and can help you get up and down. There are options that attach just to the toilet seat that have the arm feature instead of having the whole kit and caboodle, but for right now, this is an easy way to do it. So we're going to demonstrate. So we're going to go here, and we have up and down. Another way that we can use our arms, if say we didn't have the arms on the toilet seat, is we're gonna go here, go down, and then you can come back up. You can use one or two hands depending on how much support or assistance that you need getting on and off the toilet.
So what I'm sitting right here is called a tub transfer bench. And so basically what it allows us to do is that it allows us to sit, swing our legs over, and then scoot all the way in before we shower. Now, to avoid water getting in, we can pull the shower curtain over and we can stuff it into the cracks or even sit onto the curtain. And then as we're showering, now we do recommend a long-handled shower head like we do up there. And so it just kind of allows us to bring it closer to us and have a little bit more control over where we shower. And so we have some options for body wash, so like long-handled sponges that we have. And then so that can actually get our back and reach our feet as well.
So here I'm sitting on a shower chair, and so these are for our clients who have walk-in showers such as these, and so shower chairs can help increase safety while also decrease fatigue as well. And so we have our grab bars here and here, and they are anchored into the actual wall, and those just help us get up and down. And so we don't necessarily recommend suction cup grab bars, as they can be pulled off and cause an increase falls.
So this is called a handy bar. It's going to help you get in and out of the car by providing additional support as you get in and out. So there is a car hole or a ring right here that your door would actually latch on. So it's going to go in there, make sure it's nice and stable. We're going to bring our feet out. And then when you're ready to stand, we're going to push up, and there you go. So this can actually come in a lot of different versions, and different people have produced this one. But as long as it does the same thing, that's the most important. With this one specifically, there is a window breaker on the tip, and you can have a seatbelt cutter if you need it. So it's a great multi-purpose tool. Thank you so much for watching this video about adaptive equipment in arthritis. Thank you again to Sabrina for all of her wonderful insight and more information about assistive technology and adaptive equipment. We will see you in the next video, which will be the final video of the OT and Arthritis series, which will be covering arthritis and environmental modifications and energy conservation. But until then, see ya!